The time is 7:54 p.m. Good evening. September 2nd, 2021, and the news headline. Is this the end to banditry as Nigerian Airforce neutralized bandits in Zamfara state? Nigerians are already asking when the war against banditry and terrorism will end in Nigeria. They should not worry because the end is near, but some Nigerians believe that it should be quick and viewed the premise of this war ending like it's in Hollywood movies. They should know that there is no such thing as end this war. Nigerians tend to think of wars with the unconditional surrender of one side. Some Nigeria thinks that counter-insurgency is a boxing match. When terrorists like bandits, ESN, Boko Haram, and ISWAP start, it never really ends. Why? Because the media propagates this notion of winning the war on terror in a traditional convention manner, and this is not born out of ignorance. These are educated folks. They know the truth. It just makes more intrigue and drama. Can you ever remember America declaring an end to the war against Al-Qaeda? Neither was there a formal surrender when Bin Laden was killed. The conflict between the Assad regime and ISIS was only one of the myriads of conflicts in Syria. There is ISIS, there is Al-Qaeda, there are the Kurds, and when they last, there was no white flag. The death of ISIS founder Abu Bakr Baghdadi didn't bring an end to the war. If you want to understand the nature of indirect wars, think about medieval times. This is not just large-scale military forces directed by high-level strategists sitting in their bunkers, fighting it out on a Maginot line. This is greed, criminal enterprises, geopolitics, a whole welter of competing factions with nobody able to impose order across the country. Lots of different groups, lots of lines of authority, lots of outside players. That is why it is so complex and so hard to bring to a conclusion. Because essentially, the conclusion of the war has to be some stable political settlement. It has 0% of happening. That is why even though Nigeria has been winning the war, all it takes is a single attack for the military to be criticized. The military is never going to give up. According to reports, the Nigerian Air Force has neutralized scores of bandits operating in Zamfara, including their leader Kachala Aro in a school at Gidan Rijiya village in Galadi. When they gathered for a meeting, the war is surely coming to an end, but not as quickly as wanted by Nigeria. The time is 7:57 p.m. Good evening, and the news analysis. A writer has actually come on air to express that the Air Force neutralizing bandits in Zamfara state, does that mean that it is the end of banditry? And he cited some knowledge there that Nigerians believe that the end of banditry should be like it happens in the Hollywood movies, where soldiers kill the attackers and it ends there. He said that the thoughts of that kind of unconditional surrender can only be seen in movies, and it is not always the fact. He said that the Nigerians think as if counter-insurgency is a boxing match when terrorists and bandits and actually attack. It never ends. And he said the reason why the media always propagates notion like winning war and that it will come to an end and all those stuff is because they find it more intriguing and a drama like to attract more viewers and the likes. Now it is not because they do not know. It is not actually out of ignorance because they are educated folks, but because to attract much more viewers and the likes. That is why they are doing that. he said, can you remember America declaring an end to the war against Al-Qaeda? And neither was there a formal surrender when bin Laden was killed. He said the conflict between the Assad regime and ISIS was also the mirage of conflict in Syria. He said, and there was no white flag. So the death of the ISIS founder, who is Abu Bakr Baghdadi, did not even bring end to the war. He said, if you want to understand the nature of this war, then you have to think about the medieval times. And this is not just a large-scale military kind of force, directed by some high-level strategists, sitting in one bunker and like as in the movie. You understand that what is actually going on now, as per the banditry case, is just a matter of greed, criminal enterprises, geopolitical, and a whole wealth of competing factions with nobody able to impose order across the country. A nation whereby we now have kidnapping to be a very illegal kind of business. You understand that, where they find it as the fastest means to get rich or to even get funds to further sponsor their criminal enterprises and criminal activities. A lot of different groups, lot of lines of authority, outside players, and a whole lot of people are involved in this kind of case, and that is why it is so hard to come to a conclusion that the war would come to an end, or like that, and there wouldn't be any form of Boko Haram or terrorism or ISWAP or anything like that. He said that the conclusion of the war has to be some stable political settlement. It has 0% of happening, because all these things that are happening are actually politically influenced, and that was why Nigerians though has been winning the war at all times, but it takes a single attack for the military to be criticized. We all remember that the United States has extended support to Nigerians to further assist them to make sure that they detect those who are sponsoring the Boko Haram and other terrorism in the country. And there is another person that actually cited an instance that if the United States of America, as said by Mary Leonard, actually allows, actually expose those who are sponsoring terrorism in the country, that if it happens to be that these sponsors are cabinet of the President Muhammadu Buhari's regime, what would they do? Would they allow those people to be, to be taken to court and be convicted legally? So, and that is to say that all these things are politically sponsored. Like, there was an interview by a Commodore some times ago on Channels Television where he said that, yes, some of these cabinet members of President Muhammadu Buhari are involved. And that is why he said that this writer is saying that the war is surely coming to an end, but not as quickly as Nigerians envisage it. The time is 8:02 p.m. Good evening and thanks for listening.